Hello there, and welcome to my Vampire Survivors Gold Farming Guide. I'm Icon, and in this video I'm going to show you an easy and fun way to grind those coins. The method I introduce here is very accessible. You don't really need many unlocks or anything like that to get going. It yields something around 5 to 10,000 coins per 30 minutes. Depending on your luck, you can also grind out even more. It's all up to RNG in the end and which items you have unlocked. The video will be divided in 3 parts. The first one is about strategy, the second one is tips and tricks and execution, and the third one is going to be about the itemization. I put timestamps into the description box, so if you're looking for a certain topic, you'll find it there. I also put my favorite build in the description box, so if you're looking for an easy and quick access to a build, go crazy. All right, with that out of the way, let's get started and talk about the strategy. So the strategy is quite simple. We earn gold by opening chests, opening braziers, and leveling up. So once all your items are done, every level up can be used either to heal yourself or to gain coins. So the basic strategy is quite simple. We want to level as much as possible because you have no control over the chests and you have no control over the braziers. So leveling up is the only thing we can actually optimize. The perfect character for this strategy is Imelda because she has the trait which gives you even more experience. What's even better about her, she is very early accessible and her weapon has 2 big advantages. First off, the magic wand is really good at killing bosses because you can just stand right next to the dude and stun lock them by shooting at them. And the other thing is, if you haven't unlocked the duplicator yet, you will by leveling up the wand. That's pretty neat. So I want to talk about the power-ups we use for a second before we get into the actual strategy, where and how. So growth and greed are, of course, the only traits that are really mandatory for the strat. I'd personally recommend you though to level up the amount upgrade first, because this is a massive damage power up, and level up your utility things that you prefer. My personal ideal build would look like something like that. So move speed, magnetism, armor, and recovery maxed first, and then only go for greed and growth. Go for greed first and then for growth because this is the trait that has the least returns. Armor is really big because it makes it so much easier to survive, and recovery, well, it goes down the same avenue. Okay, so we're picking Imelda, and level-wise, we're going to play in the library. The library is my personal weapon of choice out of several reasons. One of them is that you can find free items there. First off, the stone mask, which increases all coins gained, which can be unlocked there. I'm going to show you how if you don't know yet. And also it offers you a free level up at the beginning of the run. These 2 things make it ideal for me. There's a third one, which I'm going to show you in the second part of the video, which pretty much begins now because I have explained the strategy. You level up as hard as possible because that's the only way how you can influence actively how much gold you get, because the chests are RNG, the braziers are RNG. So leveling up is the only thing you can personally do. All right, let's get talking about the tips and tricks about the execution. The library, by the way, if you can, always play hyper because it comes with its own gold bonus. So here's the experience gem I was talking about. The level always comes with this explodey ghost. You can't shoot it before you get to the gem. Sometimes you have to. So this gem allows you to utilize your build in a way that you want to, which is really brilliant. As you see here, I have already rerolls unlocked. So I reroll until I find something I want or not. If I don't find the item I want, I just quickly do a reroll, get in there again, and retry it until I get what I want. I'd personally go for the stone mask if I am really powerful already, because then I'll have the gold bonus from the get-go. But if you are pretty new and you're generally still struggling to survive until the 30-minute mark, go for whatever powers you up the most. The duplicator here, for example, is a wonderful item to go for. Another worthy candidate to go for early on is the crown. If you find the crown at your first level up, or you haven't unlocked the stone mask yet and you want to have an abuse or maximize item, the crown is the best to go for, because more XP, more level ups, more gold. So let's pick up the duplicator and keep going. So the next thing you want to go for is just move forward and level sparingly. That's because in the library there are free items lying around. So from time to time you will find an empty tome lying on this spot here, which I just passed. This table here, on one of those stools, you will find it. The empty tome reduces the cooldown of your weapons, so that's more shots per second, but it's also the necessary item to evolve your magic wand. So it's just the best thing you could get early on. And the best part about it, it's free. You don't need to pay anything for it. So I usually keep running straight ahead up until the 5-minute mark. During this time, I try to grab as many free items as possible. You don't need to do this though. This is an entirely optional part, but I really love to run straight ahead at least until I have found my first empty tome, because this way I can at least guarantee myself that I am able to evolve my my magic wand. And to open those braziers, by the way, the easiest way is just to stand on top of them. Your magic wand projectiles will crack them open, so this way you don't need any weapon to actively shoot at these things. Standing on top of them does the trick. Later on you won't be suffering any trouble about opening these anymore, because your projectiles will go all over the place. A word about the braziers as well. So you might think that grinding these dudes as many as possible would be a good idea, and there could be a way of farming them actively. The answer is no. The amount of braziers spawning is dependent on the time passed in the game, so I could run forward as fast and hard as I want to. There would be never a change in the amount of braziers, so you don't need to think that you need to move as much as possible to get that going. That's not true at all. It's all about the time in the game. So all in all, to maximize your farming of those braziers, it's really enough to sit down on a spot and wriggle a little bit left and right off screen. You should always, though, try to pick up as many of these braziers as possible, because at the end of the day, they really, really help you a lot. So sadly, it seems like the freebies are letting me down a bit. Itemization-wise, I want to give you a deep guide in the third part, but here's a couple of things that I really find extremely important, which make your life a lot easier. First off, never shy away to incorporate one defensive item in your build. Be it either the Laurel or the Clock Lancet, they give you a lot of stability into your run, and they really, really make it a lot easier to just reposition yourself or grab some of these items, grab some of that loot. I can't really stress it out enough how useful they are. And at the end of the day, if you have chosen your weapons wisely, you don't need 6 weapons at all. The next part is the Attractorb. I personally find it almost a mandatory item, because, you know, we want to level as hard as possible. And an item which makes it easier to grab those XP coins is just as good as it can get. Also, it combines with the Holy Flask into one of the best AoE weapons in game. So I really, really love how this weapon works in general. So if you are looking for a weapon that's giving you a high chance of finishing your run successfully, the Holy Water Attractorb combo is really, 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 really good. And beyond that, whenever you have a duplicator available, pick it up, because that's also one of these items where I can only say the reliability or your win rate will increase tremendously by merely picking up the duplicator. And beyond that, this build doesn't differ too much from anything you played before. The only things that are entirely different now are you want to pick up the stone mask and the crown as quick as possible, and you want to level them up as often as possible if you can. If you are not able to pick up crown or stone mask during a run, it might be even worth resetting it if you are still early on, depending on how the things are. The general strategy now is a quite simple one. We just run around here, kill as many enemies as possible, and try to get those braziers whenever they spawn. Whenever bosses spawn, just make sure that you pick their chests up. And, well, there's one thing that I want to mention there. If you really want to be min-maxing hard, you wait before you open those chests until you have maxed out your stone masks level. So this way, you would gain the maximum amount of money out of that. But there is not that much more that I can say about how to pull it off, because you see that's been all strategy-wise. As you see here, I'm going ham on the Attractorb upgrades because I'm personally a really big fan of Attractorb, merely because it is an extremely comfy way of leveling yourself up. So last but not least, I want to talk about a couple of problems that you might run into that are new while you're playing this game. 2 of your item slots are entirely bound to gold farming, so you are ending up with less utility slots than you might be used to. So you really need to choose a little bit more wisely. And all in all, I'd strongly recommend you to either pick up the crown or the stone mask right at the beginning of a run via this crystal to make sure that you're not getting gimped by RNG 20 minutes down the road. And besides that, the earlier you have these items, the better. And in this regard, by the way, it's better to have the crown before the stone mask, because the big coin gain starts happening later. XP gain is important way earlier. You get the idea. Alright, so with that out of the way, let's get over into the third part and let's talk about itemization. So I'm going to head out of the game and get into my collection for this part, because here we have all the items visible. So, like I already mentioned, the stone mask and the crown are the vital parts of this build. No further questions asked. Attractorb and Holy Flask are just the craziest best weapons that I can, or the craziest best combo of items that I can recommend for this thing, because, you know, we came to loot. We came to level up, and therefore this combo is crazy. Choose always one defensive item, either Clock Lancet or Laurel. I personally prefer the Laurel because when the screen is swarmed with a bajillion of enemies, the Laurel still allows you to just wade in there, collect your gems, and wade out again without getting hurt at all. So this is what I personally like about this item. When it comes down to weapons, I am a big fan for this build to create a zone of death around me. So my favorite build always incorporates the King Bible with its evolution via the Spellbinder. I love the Spellbinder for many reasons, but one of them is only that it's increasing the duration of my favorite weapons, like the holy water here too. Another honorable mention goes, as usual, to the Runetracer. Whenever you can find it, whenever you can grab a Runetracer, because the weapon is just overpowered as hell. If you feel fancy, you can go for the birds here. The Vandalier is one of the most powerful weapons out there, but it's entirely unnecessary. I'd personally recommend you way more to either go for the cross, the axe, or the fire wand as damage support. My personal favorites for the damage support are the axe, the cross, and the fire wand, because they all clear the screen in a really, really decent way once they are evolved. And their, well, except for the cross, their passive items synergize pretty well. The cross's evolution item is the clover, and I personally dislike it a bit because, you know, we don't need the luck that badly. Therefore, the axe is much cooler. The upgraded version is a really, really spiffy screen clearer, and the candelabrador synergizes with pretty much every weapon we use very, very decently. Beyond that, well, there's not much more necessary. Oh yeah, if you are able to grab a duplicator and the game offers you a lightning ring, go for it. The combo of lightning ring and duplicator is always awesome. Just avoid the lightning ring if you have no duplicator, because I personally feel like without its evolution, the item is pretty underwhelming in general. If you still have trouble surviving, fill your remaining passive slots with some defensive items like armor or wings. You have pretty much a pretty low amount of passive slots available though. Keep in mind that 4 of your passive slots are pretty much already predefined. We have the stone mask and the crown, we have the empty tome for the wand, and we pretty much always have the Attractorb, so there's only 4 slots. And my personal favorites would be the duplicator for slot 5, and slot 6 is where you can be creative. You can go for a Spellbinder to evolve the books, or you can go for a Candelabrador to evolve the axe. It's, at this point, pretty much up to you, and the really neat thing about this build is it doesn't require much itemization beyond Stone Mask, Crown, Holy Water, and Attractorb, and Empty Tome. These weapons alone almost carry you through the game. Just top it off with a Runetracer or a Fire Wand, and you should be able to grind those coins like crazy. Okay, so I don't really have much more to add at this point. There might be more effective methods out there. Feel free to share them with me, but I personally found this my favorite method because it's so accessible. Imelda is very, very early unlockable, and there's really not much hassle going on, so that's my personal way of farming money easy. So leave me a thumbs up if you enjoyed, and of course consider subscribing. There's daily content coming up on my channel, and I also stream as well, so you might want to check that out too. So have a wonderful day, and happy monster slaying you all. Goodbye.